wow. Okay, we have a ton to talk about because I want to talk about all of it.
Yeah, we did a really good job at deleting things from this list.
Yeah, we did. No, we got a few things off the list.
Yeah, I think there's about 40 things on the list, and we removed 3 of them.
Yeah. 10%.
Not even. Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 77.
Happy not E3, Jason.
Oh my goodness. I feel okay. So I like what we've done this year by not having E3 and having a bunch of like presentations, but it has been so overwhelming because it's not organized all in one place.
Yes, but none of these things are new. Like all of the things that are happening this year, except for one, I think, except for like the future games, whatever, were happening before. Like the PC game show is happening. Like Microsoft and Sony did their things. Like these are all the same events that there were. It's just, I guess nobody is like planning their schedule to make them do them in the middle of the week.
Yeah, I mean, they've seemed like so close together yet so far apart. Like Sony PlayStation State of Play was like a week ago, and then like Future Games Showcase was Saturday, and Microsoft Xbox Games Showcase was Sunday, and then the PC Game Showcase was Sunday. It's just, I don't know, the schedule seemed way more frantic than normal.
It was definitely more spread out, and a notable omission was Nintendo. There's actually been no Nintendo Direct anything this week or even in the past 3 weeks, I think. So there's no like big E3 style news from Nintendo this year.
Yeah, and Ubisoft has pushed to like later, right? They say they're not going to announce anything for a few more weeks or months. So they're also absent. I know. I think E3 kind of forced them to all be together, but at the same time, like we have plenty of news. Like it's fine. We'll be fine.
I mean, Ubisoft doesn't have to do all of their stuff at all because it's going to be the same 3 kinds of games that Ubisoft always makes, right?
Hey, now they're not, but they're good games, and I want to know what the next Assassin's Creed is, and what's the next? When's the Division 3 coming out?
It's just going to be the Division 2 expansion 7 or whatever.
I'm okay with that. Okay, so we kind of split it up into all of the different game fests that went on, or showcases, or whatever you want to call them, and we're going to talk about each of them. But before we start, I have really just one comment on like across everything that happened. Do people like horror games?
I think the answer is yes, but the people that are talking right now on this podcast do not like horror games.
I just find it amazing how many horror games there were across all of the different showcases. Like a lot. Like I didn't I knew people liked horror games. I didn't know people liked them so much to support so many coming out.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of horror games. I mean, we saw space horror games, we saw zombie horror games, we saw space zombie horror games. Like there were just a lot of those kinds of like gritty, bloody, jump scare-ish, dark kind of bleh games from everybody. I mean, they came from Sony, they came from Microsoft, all of them.
And to me, who from a person that doesn't play them, I mean, and uneducated, they all look the same to me. They all look like, well, I mean, they all look the same because they're all a big nope from me, but they just, I don't know. Do people, I wonder, I guess I need some insight here on like, do people play them for the story? Like, is the story part, like, I think Resident Evils are a lot about the story and whatnot, but like, there were just so many. And I just, how many, I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased here because I think I just don't like horror, but we're not going to talk about any of them. I just fair warning. Chris and I are not horror game players. We do not play them. I don't buy them. We're not going to talk about any of them. So just know that there were a lot of them. And if you're interested, go watch a recap somewhere else. But stay tuned for everything that we do play.
Yes. The other one that we're not going to talk about is vampire games. That was apparently a thing this year.
Yeah, this is not even with the showcase, but just like games coming out. There's like V Rising, and there's Vampire Survivors, and there were like 4 or 5 vampire games that were announced, like a survival crafting. When did vampires become a thing?
Yeah, I mean, vampires have been a thing for like 500 years or more, probably. It's just that apparently video games have discovered them recently.
Yeah, I guess my question is more, and I'm not looking for an answer, but like, when did vampires become a video game trope? I just feel like it's okay. So I really don't like zombie games, and I don't like zombie games because I feel like they're too easy of a bad guy, right? There's no story to that. I mean, typically there's a story about how the zombies came about, but like, there's no character development with a zombie. So I just feel like it's overused. It's easy. It's move on. Right. I guess vampires are a little bit more subtle, but it's the same thing. I won't be playing any of the vampire games unless the vampire is like a sprinkling on top. I think you and I talked about V Rising recently. Is that the survival crafting one? That it looks like a cool game. The mechanics of the game look good, but the vampire elements of it are too integral to the game itself, and it just kind of turns us off from it. So anything that involved a vampire, I will probably not be playing or talking about. Just forewarning. It was a big thing. There were lots of announcements about vampire games. I didn't write any of them down.
Nope, me neither.
Okay, the first showcase that happened last week was the Sony PlayStation State of Play. It happened on June 2nd, 2022, and I wrote down a few things. Honestly, the things I wrote down are not unique to like PlayStation, but are Sony games. I like that Sony is transforming into more of a game developer, studio publisher than just a PlayStation developer. They're starting to lean pretty heavy into PC space, and I'm good with that.
Well, Sony has a bunch of different studios. I mean, they just bought Bungie like this year also. So they've got Destiny under their belt now. Sony has a lot of different studios, and those studios do different development things. Most of them are for Sony platforms, but Sony themselves is starting to bring a few of their games from the PlayStation to the PC realm. But they've said, and they continue to maintain, that they're like, no, our best games are going to go PlayStation first, and then like maybe a year or 2 or 3 or 5 later, you'll get them on PC. In the case of Spider-Man, they're actually bringing Spider-Man Remastered, which came out with Miles Morales on the PS5 last year, or in 2020 rather, which is a remaster of a game from 2018 or 17. It's finally coming to PC like this year or next year. So I guess that's good. But like, if you wanted to play that game and you wanted to play it on PC, you would have been waiting like 4 or 5 years.
It's true. That's true. But I think I'm amazed at all that God of War came to PC. I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago. But not just let's talk about the first game on the list, right? Stray was a game announced a while ago. It was a game that I always assumed was going to be PlayStation only, at least for a while, and recently learned that it's coming out on PC on day one. So I won't be buying this for PlayStation.
I mean, to be fair, that's coming from a non-Sony studio in general. Like, it's actually coming from a totally third-party dev. So that's not surprising to me at all. It got the most play, and it got the reveal in a PlayStation 5 State of Play, but it wasn't like... I mean, I guess I thought it was probably exclusive also because it came out in that PS5 thing, but I'm not surprised because it's a third-party developer that it's coming day and date to PC and PlayStation.
Do we consider it an exclusive still if it's PlayStation and PC? Because it's not coming to Xbox as far as I can tell.
I think they call that a console exclusive on PlayStation.
Okay. That makes sense. Anyway, we got an extended look at Stray, some gameplay. I don't know that we got like the full gameplay kind of look, but it looks interesting enough for me to watch it. I am like teetering on the will I buy it, but I have a feeling that you're a little bit more over the edge than I am.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in the buy it camp. But then I kind of have a question on the mechanism of the purchase, because they also, at the same time that they showed off this trailer during the PlayStation State of Play, they said it was going to be on the higher tiers of PlayStation Plus, which I don't currently subscribe to. The PS Plus, we didn't talk about it on the show, but they basically recently revamped themselves to 3 different tiers. I don't remember what their names are because the names are ridiculous, because it's like PlayStation Plus Classic, PlayStation Plus or something, I don't know, and PlayStation Plus Ultimate, I don't know. It's very confusing because they have PlayStation Plus and then some superlative after that, and I don't like any of those namings at all. They could basically just call it PlayStation Plus Good, Better, Best, and that would be just as well. But if you pay basically
real-time follow-up here. Hold on.
Okay, all right, look it up.
Essential, Extra, and Premium.
Awful names, so bad.
Really bad names.
PlayStation Plus Essential is what I have now, because that's the $60 a year thing they've always had that lets you do online play and gives you a couple games a month. And then PlayStation Plus Extra is the one that gives you a bunch of games, but not all the games. And then PlayStation Plus Premium, as you said?
Premium, yeah.
Is the one that gives you like streaming PS3 games. It's essentially the top tier PlayStation Now streaming service come down to like this new PlayStation Plus branding. It doesn't matter. It's
real quick. They are the equivalent of Xbox Gold, which allows you to play online, Xbox Game Pass, which gives you games to play, and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which gives you games to play, more games, Xbox, PC, everything, and cloud streaming, everything, right? So Essential, Extra, Premium, Xbox Gold, Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah, and I mean, neither of those is particularly good in terms of names. I mean, we've had Microsoft's around for a little bit longer, so we've kind of learned them and we kind of know them. The problem with PlayStation is they've got this PlayStation Plus Extra. It's like, why do we have to keep... I mean, I know PlayStation Plus is a brand, but why don't we just call it PlayStation Extra, PlayStation Essentials, and PlayStation Premium, or whatever? Like, it would be so much easier if they just took the PlayStation Plus out of it.
I agree. And they always use the word plus too instead of the plus sign, which just adds, like, to me, it adds to the branding confusion, because if it was the plus sign, the extra word wouldn't, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. I have been considering this subscription service as well. I think the P&A record shows that I prefer to get my games via a subscription. And I love the direction we're going, and we're going to talk about maybe a little bit more about it in the show later. But the PlayStation Plus Extra, right, the middle one that gives you a bunch of games, is really, really compelling to me. And as they add more and more games, as they did with Xbox Game Pass, right? It started pretty small, but as they added more and more games, and as they add more and more games to PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, it will be harder and harder for me to say no.
The major difference, and I know we're not turning this into a PlayStation Plus show, but the major difference, though, between this and Game Pass is that Sony has very explicitly said it would not economically make sense for us to put our first-party games day one on PlayStation Plus. So you won't see, God of War Ragnarok comes out and then same day it comes to a subscription thing. Like, I don't know what the delay is going to be, but it's going to be probably 6 months or more before you would see it on the subscription thing. So that's just a major difference from Microsoft.
Yes, it is. And we will talk about that, because I don't know that they announced this. We'll talk about it.
The last thing about Stray and kind of getting it on the PS Plus Extra subscription is that I'm usually the one that wants to buy all my games, and this one looks like something that I'm not sure if it's going to go well or not. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not. I'm not sure if my wife, who likes to watch me play games and would probably watch me play games like this, she's a big fan of cats. So if this cat gets injured or dies or whatever, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So that may limit the longevity of this game. So it's like, ooh, it'd be perfect to try this on a subscription type of thing where I wouldn't have to pay for it. But it's going to be cheap too. The game, though, it's like what, $35 or something, $40. So I don't know. It feels like a great way to kind of jump into that slightly higher tier subscription and pick up Stray and then see what else is out there. But at the same time, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Stray will be $30 on Steam. You can pre-order it, please don't, and wishlist it now. Or $15 for 1 month. And I don't think it'll take you a whole month to play this game. So,
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows, but this strikes me as one of these like 4 to 6 hour kind of games.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot of hype for a 4 to 6 hour game, but I agree with you.
I would be happy to be surprised. Another game that was big on the Sony State of Play that I'm really looking forward to was Final Fantasy 16. We have been getting some trailers and drips and drabs. I think they actually had like in the first major PS5 kind of games reveal thing, they talked about Final Fantasy 16, and then we heard almost nothing about it. But now we have a release date of summer 2023, which is only a year away. And I'm really looking forward to it because this is a return to the like fantasy part of Final Fantasy. I was listening to another show, I think it was the IGN PlayStation podcast, recapping the State of Play. And they were making the point that like for the last long time, like 5-10 years, we've been getting very like steampunky Final Fantasy stuff. So like Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Final Fantasy 15 and kind of the lightning returns of Final Fantasy 13 stuff before that. I mean, this is going back to like, I don't know, 2012, 2015-ish timeframe. There have been a lot of Final Fantasies that have been set in kind of a modern era, but not a lot in the like, castles and knights and fantasy kind of stuff, which is what a lot of the early Final Fantasies were really good at. So Final Fantasy 16 really has a lot of those fantasy, like high fantasy overtones to it. And I'm really excited to kind of see that because my favorite Final Fantasy, as we've talked on the show before, is Final Fantasy 9, which was also in this kind of medieval high fantasy kind of realm. So I'm really excited for Final Fantasy 16.
Okay, so this is going to be a totally ignorant question here, but this is totally new story, not related to anything prior, single player. What kind of combat? Like what kind of a game for someone that knows almost nothing about Final Fantasy 16? What kind of game is this?
So actually, I don't know what the combat style is because they change it up every once in a while, and I know I probably could watch the trailers more closely and actually figure it out, but I haven't done that, so I apologize. But the thing about Final Fantasy games is that the numbered main entries, so like 16, 15, 14, etc., they have a completely new, completely separate story. And all of the Final Fantasy games, except for Final Fantasies 12 and 14, not 12, sorry, 11 and 14, are single-player games, where 11 and 14 are the MMOs. But each time you have a major number, then that means it's like a new story with new characters. There's a few tropes that kind of follow through all the Final Fantasies, but generally speaking, they're totally distinct when you go between big numbers. There was a 13 and a 13-2 and like a 13-3, I think. And those were all set in the same universe with the same characters. But now 16 is going to be totally new people. They've done character profiles on the PlayStation blog. We don't have time to go into all those right now, but it looks like it's going to be really, really cool, and it's going to be a totally fresh world.
With different combat styles for each number and game and new stories, where does the loyalty to Final Fantasy come from? Is it just in trust that it's going to be a good game, or why? With them being so different each time, where does that excitement come from?
I think it comes from the idea of it's somewhat familiar because you have like the big summons, like they've been called Eidolons before. They've been called a couple other things. I don't remember, and somebody's going to be yelling at their radio right now. But there's different the summons that you get as like the magic, kind of like your ultimate. Those all have like the same names and stuff. So there's a little bit of like, oh hey, yeah, I know that this one is the ice one, and this one is the fire one, and this one is whatever. You see those things. The spell names are all the same. You have like Thunder, Thundara, Thundaga, and those are like the good, better, best of those skills. You kind of have like, there's just like little things like that are familiar, but also if it's a mainline Final Fantasy game, it's going to have a good story, or at least it's going to try. It's going to have a good story. It's going to have good characters, some good character development, different stories for those characters. it used to be, to me, back in the PS1 days, like you would know that Final Fantasy would always have really, really good like full motion video rendered stuff. That's less of a deal now because like the PS5 can make circles around the renders of the videos from Final Fantasy 9. But back in the day, it was a big deal that like Final Fantasy would come on like 4 discs on the PS1. So it was like the scale of them, like it's a big, long JRPG adventure. A lot of value there if you're, kind of a kid looking for a game to do. Nowadays, I've fallen a little bit off of the Final Fantasy bandwagon, but I still do play, a lot of entries in the series. And I still haven't finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I'm probably not one to talk. But I will definitely get Final Fantasy 16 and play it.
I only have one more game I wanted to point out, and again, it's not a PlayStation or Sony game. But No Man's Sky got some press during the Sony PlayStation because they're adding, or they're essentially doing some work to make it a PlayStation VR 2 title. Which is exciting. I think it's cool. I think it adds something to No Man's Sky. What I want to say about No Man's Sky, though, is it keeps getting press, right? It was this game that didn't deliver on anything and then has just continued to give and give and give and expand. And what I want to say to you, Chris, and to our friends that are listening is I really, really want to give this game a try. Like, I know we tried it once, but I feel like it could become one of those survival games that we pick up every couple months. And, like Astroneer and Space Engineers and Valheim. And I just feel like No Man's Sky has the potential to be added into that rotation. And every time I see a trailer for it, I'm just like, that's like, it fits. It's right there. Why don't we play it? So this is a plead to you and our friends that listen. Let's try No Man's Sky. Let's try it.
All right, let's try it.
Okay, in between Sony, PlayStation, and State of Play, that's a mouthful. They're so good with names. And the other really big one that we're going to talk about, which is the Microsoft Xbox Game Showcase. There were some smaller ones. There were some smaller showcases. I watched them. Chris watched a lot of trailers for them and got caught up. But the two I want to talk about, hopefully a little quicker, is Summer Games Fest and Future Games Showcase. Like they had a lot of fun announcements, I would say. Little Future Games Showcase is focused a little bit more on indie games and kind of had a partnership with Steam. And Summer Games Fest was a lot of big games that didn't particularly belong to a larger publisher. So it was they had some cool announcements. I don't have a whole lot to say, but what I will say is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 got some screen time. And my question to maybe Chris and some other listeners is it going to be better than Vanguard? Should we buy it? I will probably get it just because Modern Warfare has always been my favorite spin on Call of Duty. It's one of the first ones that I played back, like the original Modern Warfare. And the other thing is they have a lot of their studios that do Call of Duty working on this one title, right? Typically they're doing like a one, they're rotating every 3 years, one studio and they have 3 studios and every year they're releasing a Call of Duty. This year, or this Call of Duty is supposed to be like the thing that breaks the annualized Call of Duties, and they will theoretically won't have one next year. So hopefully more time and effort went into this one and it should be better. So I will probably pick it up. I will probably do the same thing I did for Vanguard and wait for it to go on its first sale.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it per se. If there's a critical mass of people that play, I might pick it up. I will definitely not pick it up at release. I bought Vanguard. We played it for, I don't know, a week, and then we kind of just dropped it and didn't really get into it. I think it might be time for me to admit to myself that I just don't click with Call of Duty games much. Except for zombies. I do really enjoy zombies and would like to play that again on Vanguard. But getting a group together is challenging. So we'll see about Modern Warfare. I mean, Modern Warfare 2 doesn't have zombies or anything, right? I mean, it's just it's got some co-op thing, but it doesn't have any of those kind of PvE modes.
I don't think so, but I don't know that we know for sure yet. The other the other things that happened during Summer Games Fest, Fall Guys, we already knew was coming free to play, but it had a little bit of announcement. I want to just say that Fall Guys should always have been free to play, but now that it's free to play, I'm going to give it a try. And we have a group of friends kind of getting together to play it together. I'm finally going to get to play it, but it should always have been free.
Oh, you didn't play it when it came out?
I've never played it. I would not purchase it.
See, I got it through PlayStation Plus. It was free on PS Plus on the PS4.
Yeah. I didn't subscribe. I didn't have, well, I have a PS4 somewhere. I don't know where it is. So I never subscribed to PlayStation Plus until I got a PS5. And so no, I never got it. I never played it. It was not free to play. I was not paying for it. It was like $20.
It was too much money for what it was. I mean, I got it, like I said, for a subscription I was already paying for, so it was fine.
If it was $5, I would have considered it. If it was $10 and went on sale for $8, I would have probably picked it up. But I was not paying $20 for it.
I think that's fair.
And then the last thing that happened during Summer Games Fest was a Warframe announcement. And Word thinks I have a typo because I put the word announcement twice. But that's literally what it was, and I was really let down by it. They were like, oh, there's Warframe. We're going to talk about Warframe. And I'm like, okay, I don't really play Warframe anymore, but I'm always excited about the news they have. They just told us what their upcoming TennoCon 2022 is going to be about, and it gave us like no additional information. It was like 15 seconds of an announcement. And I don't know. I just feel like it shouldn't have been done at all. They should have just said nothing. And I know you don't play Warframe, but like they announce things and then don't say anything about them for 2 years. And this was one of those things that they kind of announced 2 years ago at TennoCon, or they showed a trailer for, and then it's been like radio silent on. And then they were like, oh, we're going to talk about it again. And I'm supposed to be excited about that, but I don't know. I'm a little bitter. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice.
Oh, I think I can tell. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about Warframe, but I'm sorry that they disappointed you.
It's fine. We'll move on because there's a lot of good news. I really liked and was surprised. I was surprised and delighted by the Future Games Showcase. It was something that I watched just because I wasn't doing anything else. And it wasn't something that I planned on like really sinking my teeth into. But oh my goodness, was that a well-organized, well-done show, well-paced. And the whole thing was that it was like, to me, it felt like the main replacement for like an E3 general showcase. Just because it was, you know, everyone that didn't kind of belong to a larger org or studio or publisher or whatever. And it was a lot of indie developers, but there were so many good games. And it was kind of partnering up with Steam, where Steam had a page, and still does. I recommend everyone kind of go look at the Steam page for Future Games Showcase, because they, like, every single one of them had a call to action on wishlist this on Steam. And it was really well paced, where they would show a trailer. They would do like a quick pun or a quick, you know, like super quick intro for the next trailer. And it kind of gave you time to go find that game on Steam and wishlist it. And then by the time you were done wishlisting that game, the next trailer was playing. It was really well done. And a lot of the games seemed very, very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see this because for reasons, real life reasons, I didn't have internet during this thing. So I didn't know it was happening. And then I went to go watch the replay, and it was 2.5 hours long, and I didn't have time to watch it before we recorded here. So I apologize that I only watched a few trailers of the things that Jason had called out. But I may go back and watch a bigger piece of this before too long, because it does seem like, at least from the list we have here, that there is a crazy amount of good games that are coming.
Yeah, and I was just really impressed. A lot of indie developers, and they're putting out some good stuff. The first thing I wrote down was a game called Outpost. They say it's a working title, so I don't know. It sounds like a fine title to me. But anyway, it was a co-op I got a huge description here, right? Co-op first-person shooter, third-person RTS base building, right? So you're kind of like it reminds me of a lot of what is that, Dungeon Defenders, where like there's a base building element or a tower defense element, and then there's a like an actual action element. But it was RTS base building. It was top down. So it was really cool. I think the transition between it. And what I wrote down in the show notes was it's Fortnite where you're base building, but sci-fi with more realistic graphics. So it was like what Fortnite was supposed to be when it first got developed, right? The zombie defense game that turned into a first-person shooter. And I'm actually really, I don't know. I think you and I both talked about it. Like we liked the original concept of Fortnite where it was base building and defense. But this is sci-fi instead of, I don't know, whatever Fortnite is. And it's more realistic graphics. So I wishlisted this on Steam. And if that sounds interesting to you, I would recommend to do it. It didn't have a release date yet, which is the part that it just pains me.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for this and I thought it looked kind of cool. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I wanted Fortnite, original Fortnite, Save the World Fortnite, which was the, build and defend from the zombies or whatever it was. That is the Fortnite I wanted, and I actually got like the original, like you pay for it Fortnite before it was free to play, whatever it is now. I think I would love to give this a try, and I'd like to play it together, if it is not terribly expensive, but I'm not sure if this is something that goes onto my like insta-buy list.
I'm going to keep it moving because we got a ton of games. RoboBeat was next. I think we've talked about, if you go back and listen to the episode where we talk about music and rhythm games, there was one game I could not remember the name of that was a rhythm-based game. That was a first-person shooter. And I think RoboBeat was it because we already knew about RoboBeat, but we got another look at it. We got some more gameplay. But it's that rhythm-based first-person shooter. Its graphic style is still kind of as hectic as BPM, which is the other rhythm-based first-person shooter we talked about. But its music is a little bit more EDM, and whatever you think of as EDM graphics is exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's got very Tron vibes to it, like lots of neon, lots of I don't know, bumping, like flashing lights, epilepsy warnings all over the place. That kind of game. I watched the trailer for this and I was just like, oh my gosh, this looks so hectic. Like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, it looks crazy because the person was like shooting on the beats and then like dodging on the beats, but all of it was from like a first person perspective. And that just changes the game so much. Like we talked about Soundfall, which is like a top down isometric kind of view of this kind of game. And that has like dodging and shooting and stuff on the beats. But something about putting it in first person was just like, oh my gosh, this looks like it would be very stressful. That being said, I might give it a try. I'm going to watch, once it comes out, I'll probably watch a few people play it and then see if it looks manageable.
Okay. The next one I seriously thought was a joke from Rocket League. But they showed this game where there's cars and balls. And it was a sport, and I was like, "Oh, it's an expansion for Rocket. Like, what is this? It's Rocket League, but instead of soccer, it's golf, and it's a golf race. So you line up, and the first one to it's not like the number of shots; it's time, right? So the first one to get their ball in the hole wins the hole. It just." I was so stunned by this game that I had to play it. And the demo was immediately available. And I have to admit to you, Chris, I downloaded this game and played the demo for about an hour.
Oh my goodness. So just to back up several steps, the game is called Turbo Golf Racing.
Thank you. Sorry.
And yes, it looks like Rocket League, but like it looks almost exactly the same as Rocket League from a rendering standpoint, which is a little bit weird. But I still can't figure out because I just found out about this game, 10 minutes before we started recording. So I have not downloaded the demo and played it for an hour, but at least from where I sit, it looked like I couldn't figure out like how you get points and like how the ball was like going into the holes, because it seems like it requires more precision of directionality, but also the ball looked like it was kind of pulled to the holes a little bit, because like those holes are kind of small, like where they were hitting the balls in the trailer. So I was impressed that any human could actually do that.
It is. I don't want to get too deep. We could talk about this game probably for 20 minutes, and we don't have time for it. But what I will say is it is easier than it looks, but there is definitely a skill ramp. Right there, I can understand. It's similar to Rocket League, right? Where it's easy to understand. It's just a sport. You get the ball into the hole, and you hit it to make it go. But you can very easily see how someone that is really, really good at the game would absolutely stomp a new player, and that's very similar to Rocket League, right? So I think it has potential. I don't think it's going to take off like Rocket League. Mostly because Rocket League is a team sport and this one is not a team sport. It was, it's an individual, like you're playing golf. But it looked, it was fun. It was free to play. So I guess try it, right?
Is the game going to be free to play, the final game?
I take it back. I don't know. It doesn't say, and it's still...
Rocket League was not free to play for the first several years of its existence.
That's true. I take it back. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I guess playing it felt like a free-to-play game, but I guess that's not a good indication. It had a store and cosmetics and stuff you could buy, and I don't think there was a way currently to put money into it, but it very easily looked like a game that could become a free-to-play model. So I guess I just assumed it was free-to-play. But I don't think it's going to get critical mass like Rocket League has.
So the next game on the list here, I'm stealing your hosting thunder here, is called the Entropy Center, which is spelled with the British spelling of center, centre, CENTRE. This game looks so much fun. I watched the trailer for it and I am very excited for it. The basic premise of it is like it's a first-person story puzzle game, kind of like Portal. And I love Portal. I love everything in the Portal universe. I played all of the Portal things, all of the Portal spin-offs. Very excited about it. This is not from Valve, has nothing to do with Portal, but it's trying to recapture the same vibe as Portal, it seems. And that, I think, looks really good. The trailer explains that it's like puzzles are important for generating entropy, and entropy is important for doing something with the story to make the Earth not explode. So I don't know about that, but I think that the puzzling sounds fun. The characters seem interesting. The character being a talking gun of some sort that you're holding. In general, this looks really fun, looks really good, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm like really excited for a puzzle game. Like I don't know. Like it just, when I saw the trailer for this, I was like, oh, okay. Cause like you're right. Like the gun is like this like comedic relief comedy, kind of like, a little bit of GLaDOS, but also a little not. Like she's kind of like knows what's going on, but also kind of is funny, but is also kind of like doesn't care about your life. I don't know. It felt like a very similar vibe. You're right. A similar vibe to Portal. And the puzzles are different, and I liked that. It's not a Portal game, right? Let's make that clear. You don't create portals. You control time. And with this device or gun, similar to the Portal gun, right? Like it's just, I don't know. It captured a feeling with me that I don't know that I've kind of like felt in a while by watching the trailer. I know there are other puzzle games out there, but it evoked a very similar vibe that made me want to play it.
You have written here in the notes that you thought that this story was more grounded, and I really want to know what made you say more grounded, because in the trailer, they described the Earth was 1,000,000 degrees Celsius and that it was going to explode, and then we have to rewind time in order to prevent that from happening. So what makes this more grounded than Portal?
I guess that, okay, Portal I always saw as like something that could never exist, right? Like it was a research facility that is almost comical, right? It
Yes.
Yeah, like it just, It's not grounded in any sort of reality whatsoever. Whereas this was a space station that was like with the idea of generating energy, and like they added like one element of sci-fi, right? The one element of sci-fi was this device that is apparently sentient that can control time. And that's it, right? Everything else stems from that one piece of sci-fi, and the story built around it seems more grounded. Whereas Portal is off the wall whack in every regard.
I guess in the end.
I don't know that makes any sense. But to me, I watch that game and I go, yeah, I could believe that could potentially maybe happen. Whereas you watch Portal and you're just like, there's no way.
Oh, I disagree, but that's fine. We'll let that be. But I think they're both going to be good games. I really hope this is a good game, and I will absolutely be picking it up. Probably, well, we'll see. It's coming out on PlayStation, so I know that it's coming out on PC and PlayStation, and I'm sure you'll play it on PC. But as a single player game, at least I'm assuming it's single player, it kind of speaks to me on a PlayStation kind of couch level. I'm wondering if it might even come to PlayStation Plus Extra. No, was that the name?
Good, you passed the quiz.
Okay, thanks. I was going to say PlayStation Plus again. But yeah, it might come to the subscription thing. And in that case, if I could get some sort of confirmation on that, then that would push me over the edge to buy that subscription, probably for the whole year, to play Stray and that. But I don't know. The Entropy Center sounds like a really cool game. It's coming in 2022, which is also great. Like it said in the trailer that it was coming this year. So look forward to that probably in the fall. And yeah, very excited.
Yeah, it looked almost done in the trailer. So, you know how you can just tell. So, yeah. Do you want to steal this next one for me too? Because this is like they said, what is a game for Chris? Like, let's build a game for Chris. Like, how do we just take everything he likes and put it in one game?
Yes. So there's this game. It's called Orcs, ORX, and it is a deck building tower defense game with little hordes of enemies that come after your towers. And it's, I'm assuming, kind of roguelike, and it definitely does look like a very Chris game. I'm very excited to try this. It's coming in August of this year, so a couple months. Seems like it might be perfect for a Steam Deck. I don't know.
Yeah. See, right? They took all the things for Chris.
This game reminds me a lot of a game that I am completely blanking on the name of, that involved mushrooms of some sort. It might have been Mushroom Masters, Mushroom something. It was for the PS3. And it was like this game where you got to build towers on these little spots, and then you could send armies against your opponents. And you played it as a 2 to 4 player kind of a game. Most of it was against AI, but you could play online. It was a really fun game. I did buy it on like the PS3. This looks like that in terms of having like hundreds of little enemies that swarm the towers, and then you have to build towers that will deal with the enemies. So yes, Orcs, ORX. Very much looking forward to it. It's coming out in August. I will let you know how it is on the Steam Deck.
Was the one that the old game that you're referencing, was that a deck builder?
No. It was not at all a deck builder. It was actually something where it had like really short rounds. I mean, it was like 5 minute or less rounds. It was very very quick. And I'm really annoyed that I'm blanking on the name of it. Mushroom Wars. That's what it was. I looked it up. I looked up Mushroom PS3. It got Mushroom Wars.
I saw this game and I saw that it was, a card game, tower defense, and it even excited me. It was kind of cool. I've always been kind of like into the card games, but just never like played one of them to like really get into it. But like Slay the Spire seems like, I mean, I've played a little bit of it. It seems like a really cool game. But I've never been like super tied to the turn-based combat style. And I think this is a perfect blend. I think this is a perfect addition, right? Now you have this deck building card game, but it's tower defense. And who doesn't love a good tower defense game?
Well, yeah. I mean, tower defense is a great genre in general. And I have not played nearly enough tower defense games in the last several years. So no pressure, but this game better be good.
Okay, the last game I had to put on here because I don't know if we've had an episode on it but we've definitely talked about train games before. I love train games. They're amazing. They're great. And another one is coming out called Sweet Transit. And I will be buying it and I will be trying it. And I don't know when. I don't have any more details. I literally didn't write down anything other than Sweet Transit, another train game. But it is probably wishlisted on Steam for me. And I am unreasonably excited for another train game. Okay, we are some odd number of minutes into this thing.
More than 30.
More than 30, yeah. And we have gotten to, I don't know, like a whole page of notes on the Microsoft Xbox Games Showcase.
Yes, this is one that I did actually watch most of. I mean, I skimmed it, but I did watch it, not live, but at least in most of its entirety. So I can speak a little bit more intelligently to the contents of it and some of the games involved. But I will start off saying the round stage that the presenters were on was super cool. Like, I thought that thing was very well done. They had this giant round screen behind the presenters. And they, I don't know, it looked very futuristic, very cool. I know that's kind of how everybody does recorded keynotes these days, but I don't know. I was struck by the one person standing in the center of a circle with the camera orbiting around them and a giant screen behind them.
Yeah, I didn't really notice it until you pointed it out, but I liked it as well. I think it was cool. I think this whole showcase, the whole Xbox game showcase was really well produced. I will say in general, I enjoyed watching it as a program, and I think the stage was part of it. I think the presenters were actually pretty good, right? A lot of times you put CEOs and you know, big wigs up there on stage and you're just like, okay, well, I don't even know. They don't seem passionate at all, but I don't know about passionate, but they were at least good presenters, and the thing was well paced, and they said during the beginning, we're going to focus on games you can play in the next 12 months. And I think that set up the whole showcase to be very interesting, right? Because everything you're watching at this point, you're just like, oh, this is like, we're not talking about like 2024, 2025 here. We're talking about like stuff that is coming soon.
Yeah, last year we did a, digital E3 episode of this show, and we ranted about how a lot of the games that they were showing in 2021 had a 2023 release date. And Microsoft came out to their show and they said, we're doing something we've never done before, which is we're only showing you stuff that's available to play in the next 12 months. And that, I really respected that and really appreciated that. And it made me want to pay a lot more attention, because I wasn't going to see some nifty little cinematic trailer and to say that, yeah, this is coming soon, with no date at all, which means at least 3 years out. So while Microsoft has been guilty of that in the past, this time they really kind of grabbed it and said, we're just going to do stuff you can play in the next 12 months, which I think is how all of these things should just be going forward. And maybe you get to show one or two things that are like big, long projects that are farther away, but it would provide such more like excitement or interest if you just limited yourself to like stuff that's coming out in the next year with every one of these presentations. So I fully support this. And I think Microsoft made a good call with this one.
Even doing that, there was plenty to talk about.
Oh my gosh. We have a little notes document that we're keeping for ourselves about talking about all these things. We are halfway through it, and the back half of it is entirely this Microsoft thing.
A little behind the scenes here. By the time you're listening to this, you will have maybe known that Xbox and Microsoft did another presentation on June 14th. There is speculation that Tuesday presentation will be more about the next 2 years or 3 years. I think it's a little bit more low key. We don't actually know because we're recording before that happens. But, that's a great way to do it, right? Have a showcase that is super marketed next 12 months. And we'll talk about a ton that's going to happen in even the next month. And then, a little bit more low key, have the rest of your announcements that are a little longer term, maybe a little bit more for the investors at a different date. Do we want to get started?
I think we should dive in.
Microsoft did not sugarcoat that this showcase was really majorly a showcase for what Game Pass is becoming. They leaned heavily into Xbox Game Pass, Game Pass Ultimate, cloud gaming. They did not hide the fact that is their strategy. I will say it is absolutely, in my mind, the best deal in gaming. And this showcase continues to drive that fact home. It is beyond a doubt the best deal in gaming. And we'll talk about it as we talk about these games, but almost everything they announced, not everything, but almost everything they announced had some element of Game Pass to it. Either it was coming out on Game Pass, it was getting added to Game Pass, you got benefits for Game Pass. Many of the big titles they announced were day one Game Pass games, right? And that, like Chris mentioned earlier, that's the major difference between Xbox Game Pass and Sony PlayStation Plus Extra, was that these games are coming to Game Pass day one. There is no need to pay for them if you are already subscribed. And it's so integral to that to Xbox and Microsoft, and it's something that if you want to play these games, it almost feels necessary at this point. I wouldn't say it is, right? You can still buy these games, but why would you? Why? You just get Game Pass, even if it's just for 1 month. I don't know. And anyway, it was surprising during this showcase, and Chris, I don't know if you got the same feeling, but it was surprising during this showcase if a game wasn't on Game Pass that they were announcing. And that is really changing kind of the mindset of this subscription.
Yeah, Microsoft did this thing where in between every or before every trailer, and I couldn't quite figure, I was jumping around. I didn't watch it live at 1X or anything, but it was before every game, it would say Game Pass available, or maybe it was at the end. I don't remember. But they had these little slides that were every time it would say play it on Game Pass, play it on Game Pass. I was like, oh my gosh, this is every game. It was not every game, but it felt like it was every game. And maybe that was some marketing magic on their part, but I think they did a good job with it. A couple of really big names that are coming, and they're coming to Game Pass.
Best deal in gaming. The
first game that I saw in the presentation that I kind of wrote down here that was kind of there's always something that's oddball, right? So in the PlayStation stuff a year ago, it was Deathloop, and they just kept talking about Deathloop, not Bugsnax, but Deathloop. And they did that, and you're like, oh, this looks like a kind of interesting concept. And then I think they really kind of overplayed Deathloop a little bit on the PS5 side. There was this game that it was towards the beginning of the Microsoft presentation, and it showed kind of a realistic but a little bit cartoony kind of game. It looked a lot like a Ratchet and Clank game. It showed all of these different talking guns and stuff. Every gun had a little face that faced the player. So and it was really kind of weird looking. It was a cross between Ratchet and Clank and an Oddworld kind of a vibe. The game is called High on Life, and I really don't know much about it. But it was a first person shooter, looked a little bit BioShocky, a little bit Ratchet and Clankish. And I'm intrigued. I didn't catch if it was coming to Game Pass or not, but it is coming to Game Pass. Of course it is. I just looked it up, and that is you're a space person and you've got to do this stuff, but the guns are telling you story and giving you exposition and stuff. So I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. I don't know if you would like it at all, but I would say maybe go back and check out the trailer because it seems kind of cool.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I totally missed this. I was watching the first couple minutes of it on my phone, and I remember, as you're describing this game, I remember seeing it, but I didn't write it down. If it's a single-player game, I will say I probably didn't write it down because I'm so far behind in single-player games, and please don't at me. But what you're describing sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, it seems neat. I'll be interested to see kind of more details on how big is it and how long is it and all of that kind of stuff. One thing that I did want to kind of throw out here, especially early on in the Microsoft thing, because Microsoft showed so many games, and this is kind of a very Microsoft kind of thing to do, where they would just get up there and just be trailer. They are just, Sony shows at this point are maybe 15 games total. Microsoft shows are 50 games. They are so huge now. I actually found myself watching some of these things and being like, I hope this isn't too long of a game. Like, I hope this isn't too big of a game. I think this world is interesting. I think these things are interesting, but I almost would rather it be kind of a 10 hours or less kind of a story game and then maybe an expansion or something, as opposed to a big like 30 hour, 60 hour, 100 hour, big RPG kind of a thing. And I'm a little bit sad about that, but it's kind of the realities of just being an adult that plays video games, that like I just don't have as much time to play games. And the time that I do spend playing games, I'm finding myself, playing with friends and playing a lot of the same kinds of games. And you just mentioned your single player backlog. The same effect here. I'm just looking for stuff that's maybe nice, put a bow on it, self-contained experiences that you can finish in like a weekend.
Yeah, I totally understand that. As you were kind of describing that, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it would be nice to experience the whole story in a weekend or in a reasonable amount of time, right? I'm trying to play Horizon. I really, really want to play Horizon. I'm trying to play God, what is the name of that game? I always get it wrong. Jedi Fallen.
Oh, Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order. Thank you. I always call it something different every time. But I'm trying to play this game, right? I want to experience the story, but they're just so long, and it takes a lot of dedication. I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it was a great game, but it was like 50 to 60 hours for me to finish that game. And while there is still a place for those games, sometimes I just want the story. And I agree with you that something like this, something like Entropy Center that we talked about a little while ago, Stray, which we talked about, 4 to 10 hours is fine.
Yeah, I think that's the sweet spot, because anything shorter than 4, you're like, this isn't really worth getting into. But if it tells a good story and it's nice and self-contained, those are the kinds of things I'm almost looking for at this point. I might be in the minority here. I don't know. Let us know what you think. But big games are harder and harder to play, especially as more and more games seem to be coming out every year. You just have to get a little choosy, and that's unfortunate.
An announcement that took me totally by surprise. Now that I look back and kind of see like what happened, I'm not as surprised. But in the moment, I was extremely surprised to see that Riot is joining in on this Game Pass. And you would be like, wait a second, most of Riot's games are free to play. How are they doing this? And what they're doing...
Yes, that was my first reaction.
Yeah, like League of Legends, what? Like, that's free to play. They're joining Game Pass by saying when you play League and have Game Pass, all of the heroes are unlocked. And if you play maybe Dota instead of League, League of Legends is a game where it's a MOBA, but you choose heroes to play and you get like 6 of them for free or something, and then you have to earn the rest or pay real money for the rest. And it is relatively easy to earn them, but it's not immediate. So it drives microtransactions and things like that. But they said League was one of the games. If you have Game Pass, all of the heroes are just unlocked for you. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a ton of sense. And they did this for, I think, up to 5. They did 5 games where essentially, I like how they did this. The mechanical, functional, game impacting elements are all unlocked if you have Game Pass.
This is a great thing because I like Dota 2, as we've talked about on this show before. I have always kind of used it as a diss against League of Legends that Dota has all of their heroes unlocked from day 0, right? You download the free-to-play game, you boot it up, and you can play all of the heroes or champions. League calls them champions. So now to see that like all of the heroes or champions of League of Legends are going to be available if you have Game Pass, I think that is excellent. I will probably give League of Legends another shot with the knowledge that I can kind of pick and choose whatever character I want. In practice, I'm sure I will land on the same 10 characters and I could probably just buy them or whatever, but I already have Game Pass. So I can get in there and I can play a little bit of League and see how it stacks up to Dota and or what I think about playing it long term. I have a lot of more friends that play League than friends that play Dota, so that's also another kind of motivating factor there. The other games that they announced were League of Legends Wild Rift, which is the mobile version of League of Legends that was showcased in the Apple iPhone event, I think last year or the year before. So it's like a 3-on-3, I think, maybe it's 5-on-5, but it's like a MOBA on your phone. Valorant, which is their shooter, which I don't really remember much about, but I remember it was a big deal when it came out. Teamfight Tactics, which is their auto battler, and Legends of Runeterra, which is their Hearthstone card battler game thing. So those are all the games they said were coming to Game Pass. One thing I did want to mention about all of these kind of Riot games is they said that they're coming in 2023, and that makes no sense to me because these games are all out. You can play them all today, and they're all free to play right now. So why is it taking until 2023 for all that to kind of go through and happen?
I have no idea. I did not catch this during the presentation, and I saw you wrote it down here. The only thing I can think of is some kind of technical limitation to link your Xbox account with your Riot account, but it can't take that long, can it?
It could also be something contractual or something, some other detail about how they are changing business models, so they have to do something. I don't know. We don't know the whole story, obviously, but it is just kind of interesting that all of these games that already exist, it's going to take another year for them to kind of go onto Game Pass, all included.
Chris, I want you to remember a time. I want you to think back. And I think this was probably, 3 years ago now? And I want you to remember when Forza Horizon 4 was coming out.
Okay, this was a long time ago.
And we were... Yeah, I know. And we were waiting, and we were waiting, and we were waiting. And we were like, is Forza Horizon... Maybe it was after Forza Horizon 4 came out. But anyway, we were like trying to figure out whether Forza Horizon 4 was going to be on Game Pass for PC. And it was like really positive, encouraging news when we learned that Forza Horizon 4 was going to be on Xbox Game Pass for PC. But then we learned but Forza Motorsport, I don't remember at the time, 5 or 6 or whatever, is not going to be on Xbox Game Pass for PC. So there was this time where we had to really figure out whether these Microsoft games, are they gonna be on Xbox Game Pass? Are they gonna be on Game Pass? Are they not gonna? Those were dark times.
The dark days.
Because during this presentation, they showed the next Forza Motorsport. And while we don't play Motorsport as much as we play Horizon, as soon as Forza Motorsport came on, I was like, it's gonna be on Game Pass. I know. And it's blue skies because I just know I already have Game Pass. I'm going to get Forza Motorsport, and I will probably play it because I already pay for Game Pass.
Yeah, I'm still kind of in the pick up and down Gran Turismo 7 world, as we've talked about in the past. I'm still playing a little bit of GT7. I will probably try Forza Motorsport. I don't know what it is, but Motorsport, at least the one that was on Game Pass most recently before it got taken off, because now I think all the Motorsports are off of Game Pass. I just, it didn't click for me. It was, something was too much about it. Something was either too simulatory, too tweaky, not approachable enough, or too long to load. I don't remember what the details were, but I remember really not liking Forza Motorsport and saying, I'll just wait for Gran Turismo. I will give this a shot. This game looks amazing graphically. It looks just, the level of detail is insane.
So that's always been the thing for Motorsport. Horizon's always been this thing that lags behind and is really the arcade game that is built off the technology of Motorsport. And Motorsport is almost the R&D project, right? That it's what pushes the ray tracing and the graphics forward. And then the game that's actually built around it is Horizon. And I know that the Motorsport super fans out there are going to get really angry at that, but I think Horizon's a better game. I think Motorsport is the more fine-tuned, refined kind of thing that pushing the technology forward. It looks great. I will tell you, I don't normally notice past a certain point of graphics where I'm just like, oh yeah, it looks good. Great. Cool. Whatever. I don't really care. So as they were doing this graphics showcase, I was like, oh, it's so pretty. It's really cool. Some of the grass was oh, that looks really cool. It looks almost photorealistic. And then there was one moment where they started talking about what ray tracing is allowing to happen and what it's enabling. And they were like, oh yeah, it's allowing to see the real reflections of the cars in the mirrors. And they were like, but what it's also enabling is reflections of cars on other cars. And they're showing this like black glossy car with a bright red car next to it. And you see the red car reflecting in the black gloss, and it looks real. And that is when I kind of got goosebumps and said, like, I'll never notice this while playing because the cars are going too fast. But the fact that what they're showing me right now is in-engine, ray traced, real time is incredible.
Yeah, no, that looks amazing. I think it looks better than Gran Turismo does. I mean, and Gran Turismo looks really good, but I do think that this looks even better. The note that I had made from watching this and from kind of hearing your description of the reflection on the reflection on the reflection and all of that is that I'm going to need a new graphics card to play this game.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to need a new graphic. I have a 2070 Super, and I don't think that's going to keep up with this thing.
Yeah, so I have a 1070 still, like from forever ago. From before my current PC build. Like I moved the GPU when I upgraded everything else. I just kept my GPU. And I've been saying for a long time that I'm waiting for the NVIDIA 4000 series to kind of make the upgrade. I have a feeling that sometime mid next year, or early next year, maybe I'll be able to get a 40-something, 4070, 4080, we'll see. And I will probably jump in on that and see what it looks like. I don't usually get into, GPU stuff. Like there comes to be a certain point where you're like, everything I can play at high enough settings that I'm fine. Like I can't play it maybe at top ultra max settings, but I can play well enough. I think watching the Microsoft thing today, I was seeing a lot of things, especially with them coming to Game Pass, where I was like, okay, there's probably a critical mass of story type games and like games I will care about the graphics of that having a new graphics card will actually make a difference. So I think, yes, the next year, 2023, will probably be the year of the GPU upgrade for me.
And prices are starting to come back down slowly, but they are.
Slowly.
So I agree. I have a little bit, I have a 3 generation newer card than you, and even I'm feeling that. So I don't know that I would be able to wait as long as you have. But GPU, I agree with you on the GPU cycle front, where like for a while you're just like, oh, I don't need it. I'm playing everything fine. Okay, I can't do ultra graphics, but I can do like medium to high. We're getting to the point now where I don't know that you would be able to run Forza Motorsport at medium graphics.
That may be true, especially because I play at 2K. I play at 2560 by 1440. I would love to have my dream for my next big jump is I have 3 2560 by 1440 screens in front of me, and they're all G-Sync capable. If I could get them all doing some sort of surround thing where all 3 of them were playing the same game and all of them are running at some high-ish frame rate, that's kind of what I'm hoping for in my next GPU. Who knows if I can actually do it or afford that, but I think it would be really cool to try.
Can I jump a little bit here just for a hot second since we're talking about Forza? I know it's a little further down the thing, but they did announce a Forza Horizon 5 expansion. To no one's surprise, it was the fun expansion, and because they always do like a realistic one and a fun one. And this fun one was Hot Wheels, which I think they've done before.
Yeah, Forza Horizon 3 had a Hot Wheels expansion.
I'm kind of excited about it. It's cool. It's fine. I liked Lego a lot, but Hot Wheels is cool.
I liked Lego a lot more than I liked Hot Wheels because we had Hot Wheels, like I said, in Forza Horizon 3, which we both had, and with the DLC, I think. Or maybe I had the DLC and maybe you didn't. I don't remember. But it was fine. The Hot Wheels thing, it's like, oh, it's a giant Hot Wheels track, and you can go loop-de-loops and all this cool stuff in real cars, and it's something about that. It's just not. It's not as fun as the Lego stuff, which was not crazy orange track, super boost, loop-de-loop stuff, but more. I don't know. The Lego aesthetic was just better to me than the Hot Wheels thing. And I actually wouldn't be disappointed if they did Lego again for Forza Horizon 5. That would be fine with me. But you're right that there's usually a fun one and a more serious expansion. But the fun one is usually the much better expansion. So if they did 2 fun ones, that would be kind of cool.
I agree with you that the fun one is the better expansion.
So the this one is not coming to Game Pass, the expansion, because of course they have to make money somehow. However, longtime listeners will remember that we both bought the whatever it was Super Pass that let you play Forza Horizon 5 3 days early, and also came with the 2 expansions. So we're going to get this expansion.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you, Chris.
Yep. So it'll just show up in our library in like whatever it is, 3 weeks when it comes out.
Excellent.
I can't believe you forgot about that, because you were the one that drove us to do the buying thing.
It wasn't for the early. It was a good deal, and the early was an extra benefit. I mean, we would have paid, what, $30 for this expansion, but we paid $45 for both expansions and early access and VIP. I mean, I'm not going to rehash the argument, but it was a good deal.
Okay. All right. I'm just surprised you forgot about it. That's all.
I did forget about it. I was getting ready to ask you whether you were going to buy this expansion.
No, I'm not going to buy it because I already bought it. The next thing that I saw that I just felt like I needed to mention just for Jason's benefit is that they added some Halo ship to Microsoft Flight Simulator. That's coming out, available now, I think. I don't play Flight Simulator. I didn't really play Halo, and I don't particularly care for Halo, but I thought you might be excited about this, and that they had some Halo music in the trailer.
Okay, so it was a cool trailer. It's called a Pelican, by the way. It's essentially the dropship for Halo. It was cool. I think the Microsoft Flight Simulator purists are going to be a little annoyed because it's not a real plane, but it was cool. The trailer was cool. Boy, does Microsoft Flight Simulator look good.
Yeah, that's another new GPU kind of game.
I don't play it. I guess is Flight Simulator included on Game Pass? I mean, of course it is, right?
Some level of Flight Simulator is included, and then there's, similar to Forza, some kind of expansion that you can pay for.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't play it. I don't plan on playing it. But it was a cool trailer.
Flight Simulator is one of those games that I've never played, mostly because I feel like either I need to have a whole throttle setup with puddles and sticks and throttles and craziness, or if I don't have it and I play it, I would then immediately want those things if I liked it, and that's a bad idea. So I just am not going to play Flight Simulator.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so so Microsoft owns Blizzard now. Maybe not yet, but they will.
They're close. Yeah, they're close to owning Blizzard, which I had completely forgotten going into this.
Me too.
And then all of a sudden they start this trailer for Overwatch 2, and I was like, oh, neat. Like Blizzard did a whole deal with Microsoft to like, you know, get a trailer for Overwatch in here. And then it kind of hit me like, oh, wait, no, this is Microsoft kind of doing this for themselves to show off Blizzard's next game, you know, Overwatch 2. And we finally got a release date for Overwatch 2.
Do you want to tell everyone what it is? And then I want to talk about it.
Yeah, so what they said in this trailer was early access October 8th. And I have no idea what that means.
I don't either. Maybe, okay, so the Overwatch 2 is the multiplayer update along with apparently some co-op-y stuff? But you only have to pay for the co-op-y stuff, right?
Yeah, Overwatch 2 is going to be like PvE modes that were going to be paid for only. And then the actual base game combat stuff was going to be essentially an expansion to Overwatch 1. They had never said that it was going to be free to play, I don't think. Or maybe they had and I wasn't paying attention because I was like, oh yeah, they'll just add the new heroes and stuff to Overwatch 1. So if you don't want to buy it, then you just don't pay for it, but you get to play the new heroes and stuff in your existing Overwatch 1, which basically everybody has, but they're still charging, you know, $20 or $40 for it. But this very prominently...
Yeah, it's not free to play.
Right, it's not. Overwatch 1 is not free to play. But this very prominently said Overwatch 2 is free to play. And so it's weird because what are you going to pay for?
Yeah, so I guess maybe if you pay for the co-op-y expansion, all the stuff that you're required to pay for, you get early access on October 8th. But if you don't, then you don't. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But in any case, we got a date. And regular access can't be much further after October 8th, can it?
I mean, it could be, I'd say, up to a month, probably. But it's probably more like 3 days or a week or 2 weeks, maybe. And it's the kind of thing, too, where something like a game like Overwatch, where you have to have a bunch of people in each game, you know, they're switching from 6v6 to 5v5 for Overwatch 2. But like you need that critical mass of players. You need that community of people playing. So you can't have your early access be separated from your final release by that much.
Right. I was listening to a group of people watch this showcase. and they made a comment. Do you feel like Microsoft in some way pushed, facilitated, saved Overwatch 2 to get released? Or do you feel like this was always the plan?
I hope. Well, I don't know. I think that this was always the plan, was to come out in 2022, because the original plan was to come out in 2020 or 21. So like they're already late from where I think everybody expected them to be. And then it started to turn into a little bit of a Duke Nukem kind of story where it was like, oh, this is just never going to come out, is it? But then in the last 2-3 months, we've had a lot of media and a lot of like reveals, and they had the beta or alpha or whatever that was, the gameplay option demo thing that I did participate in, and actually it was Overwatch. You're playing some more Overwatch.
It was Overwatch.
Like it very much had a vibe of like, here's kind of what we're doing, but I looked at it and everybody looked at it that I talked to, and they're like, wow, this doesn't look any different than Overwatch 1. Like it's barely even different in appearance. There was a little bit of HUD changes and stuff, but like the engine was the same and everything else. It was supposed to be that Overwatch 2 would have a fancier rendering engine that looked better and all of that. And so one of the things you got by paying your money was that you would get better graphics. And so that hasn't borne out yet. I mean, maybe it's still to come, but nobody's really seen anything that looks particularly better about Overwatch 2 versus Overwatch 1 in a graphics perspective. I don't know if it was always the plan. I mean, I think maybe Microsoft lit a bit of a fire under them and said, hey, we got to get this thing out the door somehow. And maybe it'll be that the PvE stuff comes a little later, and that would be fine. I mean, I look forward to that more. The PvE stuff is the thing I'm most excited about for Overwatch 2, but I'd be okay to wait until it's done if it's not like another 3 years.
Well, so everyone's kind of calling this like Overwatch, like what, 1.1 or whatever, or 1.2 or whatever they're calling it. Expansion to Overwatch 1. I'd be fine with this PvE stuff coming out later as a DLC.
Right. Do it as a $20 or $30 paid DLC.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally cool. I don't know why they decided to call it Overwatch 2, but I don't know. Whatever. I won't be playing it. I don't like Overwatch.
Yeah, I know. But I will.
I'm just bad. I'm just bad at it. I mean, maybe I'll if it really is free to play, I'll probably have it downloaded and all that. But God, I'm so bad at it, and it drives me to anger so much faster than other games. It's not good for me. I don't know why, but I was happy to see it in this presentation. I feel in my gut, I have no way to back this up, but I have some feeling that Microsoft is somehow encouraging or pushing or saving Overwatch 2 in some capacity. I have a feeling that they had something to do with either the announcement or the trailer or it being showcased when it did or whatever. I have a feeling Blizzard would not have done it this way.
Yes, this was definitely a surprise. I agree. I have just a couple of really quick hits, a little bit out of order, but that's okay. One of them was Ara History Untold, which is, they made this big, long cinematic trailer about like how history is written by something. They had some catchphrase that they used at the beginning and the end. And it's called Ara History Untold. The idea is, the trailer said that it was a turn-based strategy game, and it looks like it's in the vein of Civilization. So I'm kind of intrigued to see. It's coming to Game Pass next year. So I don't know. Maybe we could get a group together and try a game of it, see how it goes. I don't know. They didn't show any real gameplay. They just kind of showed this cinematic trailer. Might be worth a shot.
Ask me in the moment. I didn't write it down, but if it's, again, I play with other people, so if you said, hey, it's on Game Pass, it's an easy download.
Yeah, the other game, which is not going to be a download for you at all, I'm sure, and maybe not even for me, but I was really kind of struck by the fact that they included it in this big of a high-profile kind of event, was a game that was called Pentiment, I think it was. I wrote it down. It looks like a 2D medieval storybook kind of thing, like animation style, almost like the little interstitials in Monty Python and the Holy Grail a little bit, where you have like the little characters that are like drawn by monks almost, that kind of like whatever embellished art style. It's coming out in November. It's on Game Pass, I believe. I'm just glad that this kind of game still gets made and gets this level of kind of high profile attention, I guess. I don't even know if I'm going to play it. Like I said, I probably will give it a download, maybe give it a try, see what it is, see how they do it. But I was struck by it, and I think it was kind of neat that it was there.
I think this is part of Xbox's overall strategy, right? I think they're very clearly focused on not just big games anymore. And I think it's part of, the big brain strategy from all the way from the top, right? They bought a lot of studios, and some of those studios were very surprising that they were not AAA studios. And I think featuring a game like this is perfectly, again, I agree, is surprising, but is perfectly in line with the kind of group of studios that they want to be. Okay, my turn. Survival crafting. Ready? I think it's survival crafting.
Wait, do you like survival crafting games, Jason? Is that what you're saying?
I like that we play them together. And this one looks really cool. Okay, so I did not know about this game. I don't know if it was a world premiere, but it's a game called Lightyear Frontier. And it is you're in a mech, and it's like sci-fi, but like the whole, like they introduced the storyline as you wanted to get away and start your own life. And I was like, oh, it's Stardew Valley, but sci-fi. Because that's literally what it is. It's I want to get away, start my own life, and it shows like farming and growing crops and collecting resources, and then there's like a little mystery dungeon element, and they didn't show it, but I would suspect that there's like relationship stuff, and it's Stardew Valley but sci-fi, but it's co-op. And they showed in like real quick at the end of the trailer, they showed multiple mechs working on the same farm. So it's a little bit more than Stardew Valley. It looked like you could build some like buildings and whatnot. A little bit more like Astroneer or maybe even Space Engineer style. But it was, and maybe it doesn't qualify as a survival crafting game. I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit more. We didn't get a whole lot of detail, but man, oh man, it just gives off like major sci-fi Stardew Valley vibes, and I'm down for that. I think we should play it.
Yeah, I saw this one and I was like, ooh, I really like the aesthetic. I think I like the idea of the whole farming and stuff. The mech thing is a little weird, but that's fine. I would like to play it also. I would like to see kind of what it is and maybe get a group of 4 or 5 people together and play it. I think we can. I think, it being on Game Pass is definitely an easy sell to get a group together.
Hey, if you don't have Game Pass, it's the best deal in gaming. You should go get Game Pass.
Speaking of the best deal in gaming, there's a game that you have been telling me about for like 2 months, and we haven't bought it yet because we are instituting the new rule of don't buy a game unless you're actively going to play it in the next like 2 hours, even if it's on sale. That's the Chris rule of buying games now.
I love that rule. It saved me.
Yeah, it turns out this was a really good idea because this game, Gunfire Reborn, which is a like, I don't know, third-person shooter roguelite something. It looks like a cool game. Anyway, it was in the presentation solely to say that it's coming to Game Pass like soon in October.
Yeah, I think it's early access, which is why I hadn't purchased it. It's early access on Steam. But it's a good game. It's a roguelike or roguelike or whatever you want to call it. First person shooter, kind of cartoony. But it's gotten a lot of really good recommendations from some people I know in other communities. And I've watched someone play it for a couple hours. It looks really fun. It looks really cool. It's co-op. It's a roguelike, and it looks kind of fun and wacky. And I was like, should I get it? Should we play it? Someone was telling me, yeah, it's good. It's early access, but it's good. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll get it. And then I was like, but I would definitely get it if someone else got it with me. And I tried to convince you to get it. And you made the right call, because when it gets released, I think in October of 2022, it's coming to Game Pass day one. So that's when we'll be playing it.
Yeah, I actually, when you actually started talking about it, I dragged my feet on it a little bit because I thought this looked like a really good Humble monthly kind of game. A really good Humble bundle kind of just shows up because it's like $20 retail. And I was like, this is prime fodder for coming to Humble. And so I was like, I'm going to hold off for like, 6 months and see what happens with it. And it never did come to Humble, or at least it hasn't yet, but it is coming to Game Pass, so that was definitely the right call in retrospect.
So Microsoft owns Blizzard now.
Yeah, or almost does, or whatever, technically.
I'm having a little deja vu.
Yeah, so this was one, they gave approximately 10 minutes to, maybe not quite 10 minutes, it felt like 10 minutes, to Diablo 4 in the presentation here. We said we weren't going to talk about any horror or vampire games, and this is like bordering very close on that vibe. Diablo 4 is Diablo. It's just more Diablo, more dungeon crawling, more Diablo. But it's also like an MMO now, I guess, based on the trailer and the talking.
Okay. You've played the other Diablos, right?
I played Diablo 3, and I played a little bit of the phone game that just came out like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, but you played a lot of Diablo 3?
Yeah, a decent bit, yeah.
Okay. From an outsider looking in, someone that has never played, I mean, I've played, 20 minutes of the phone game just to see what that's all about. I've played maybe 20 minutes of Diablo 3 with you. I don't even know that we got into anything. From an outsider looking in, the MMO elements or the multiplayer elements of Diablo 4 look very interesting to me. But I can see very easily why a Diablo purist might not like them, because it is not traditional Diablo.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm a Diablo purist.
But it adds, like, the features that they talked about seemed very Lost Ark-y, with, like, world bosses and world events and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I could get into that.
Yeah, I'll say I'm not a Diablo purist. I actually thought some of these looked kind of interesting as the idea of like world bosses and things like that. It'll all come down to kind of implementation and how it plays out. It's just really more Diablo and like Diablo with more people. So I think that's fine. I'm not really offended by the addition of MMO-ish features. It just was kind of weird because it was like, oh yeah, I guess you're just adding more people to Diablo now. I will admit that I skimmed hard on this Diablo 4 announcement because I'm not that interested in hearing about it right now. I will hear about it more when it's closer to coming out, and then I will make a call at that point whether I want to spend probably $60 on buying Diablo 4. I will say that I FOMO'd hard on Diablo 3, and I did not pre-order it, did not buy it, and then I had a group of friends that was going to play it day one, and I like scrambled to go buy it and get it like, I don't know, 8 hours before it released. And I think I did pre-order it and ended up buying it, or maybe it was 8 hours after it released. One way or the other, I got it within like 24 hours of it coming out. So I am going to do the same thing here. I'm not even sure I'm going to FOMO it, but I'm not terribly interested in Diablo 4 from where I sit right this minute.
We got a date of 2023, right?
Yes, but on the slide that says coming to Xbox and PC over the next 12 months, it is the first thing in the top left corner of the 2023 slate. So I'm wondering if those are in any sort of chronological order, and then it might be in early 2023.
The 2022 side is, so maybe 2023 is in a relative order. Okay, next, Chris.
Yeah, Jason.
Was the best trailer of the weekend.
Yes, by a long shot.
By a landslide. And not that we're biased at all, but Sea of Thieves Season 7 had an amazing trailer.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should even talk about it, like spoil it, or if we should just leave a link in the show notes and just let people see it themselves.
We can maybe talk about, like, maybe we don't talk about the trailer, but some of the stuff coming has been asked for a long time, right? Naming your ship, customization, saving, I think, like, so you can just reload a preload of your ship. They talked about some more content and whatnot. There was one element of the trailer that talked about like new cash-in locations or like to sell your loot with ease, and it like showed people like dropping. I just wondered what you thought of that. I don't play enough Sea of Thieves to really know like the hassle of selling your stuff, but I wondered what you saw, what you thought, and what you think that might be.
This is actually a really big deal, I think, because one of the most not challenging, but risky parts of Sea of Thieves. So Sea of Thieves, of course, has always on PvP, so anybody can come gank you at any time, and you'll be out there running around doing stuff, getting treasure, all that kind of thing. And then you'll have a bunch of treasure on your ship and somebody shows up and you're like, oh no, because you can only sell stuff at outposts, and there's only, I think, 7 or maybe 11 outposts total on the entire map. So you have to go to a particular island to sell your stuff. Especially if you're, and one of the other details is if you're representing the Reaper's Bones emissary, you have to go to one single island on the whole entire map. They may leave that because Reapers is a special case, but I think having more places that you can sell your stuff so that you're hopefully always a little bit closer to being able to sell stuff is definitely a step up and a step in the right direction, because oftentimes you'll kind of be building up this liability of treasure that's on your ship, and then not being able to sell it or being able to get somewhere to sell it, and knowing that there's only a few places where you can sell it forces some more encounters than I prefer. Granted, I'm more of a pacifist when it comes to Sea of Thieves. I don't mind ship-to-ship combat, and I don't mind, fighting people sometimes, but I really would rather do it when I don't have 100,000 gold worth of stuff on my ship. So being able to maybe offload some of those things as you go, or a little sooner, or maybe only certain things sell to certain places or something, but even just being able to sell certain categories of items just to feel like you've locked in a little bit of progress. That's what I always say when we're playing, is like, oh, you want to go sell stuff, so we kind of lock in, and that means to like lock in our actual gains on the day of like, what money did we make, what things did we do that are worth anything in kind of the overall metagame. So any more opportunities to do that, I think, is a great improvement.
I don't really want to say much more. You should go watch the trailer. This will be in our show notes. It was incredible. I don't even want. I just go watch it.
The next game that they showed that I put on here that I know that Jason probably doesn't care at all about was a game called Ravenlok, which looks like an Alice in Wonderland inspired kind of game. Almost like maybe like a Kingdom Hearts style thing, although not with the Disney license, of course. It looks really cool. It looks a lot like that game that came out a couple years ago, Lost in Random, that was on Game Pass, or sorry, not Game Pass, EA Play Pro a couple years ago. There are too many subscriptions. It's on the Game Pass version of EA Play now. So I've been meaning to pick it up. What I wrote in our little notes back and forth to each other is, Chris loves the aesthetic. Chris wants to play, but probably won't, because this is that kind of game where I look at it and I'm like, this looks really fun. I would love to sit down and play this, and I will probably never do it.
Do you feel that way just because it's another single player game and you like just don't have time?
Yeah, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of like, I don't know that I'm gonna sit down and choose to play a game like this since it's single player, and like, it's kind of cartoony, but I like kind of cartoony. Like a little hack and slashy. It's got some weird, like, gives me vibes of there's a game on the PS3 called 8-Bit Hero, I think, or something like that. That was really fun, where they had like little voxel based kind of characters and stuff. I don't know. It looks really cool. It looks really fun. I just don't think I'm going to have time to play it, and I'm never going to think to like sit down and start it.
Have you played Inside and Limbo?
I think I played one of the two, and I don't remember which one. I think it was Inside, but I played it for like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and then I just dropped it because I was like, nope, I'm good. No thanks.
Inside was a little creepy. I don't know about Limbo. I didn't play it. I watched someone else play it. But I've always heard they're really good puzzle games, or really good games. And they announced a game called Cocoon today, from the same publisher, and I think the same director. And it is less scary. It looks less scary. It looks like a really good, not scary puzzle game.
Yeah, this game Cocoon, it looks really cool, and they said right up front that it was published by Annapurna, and I really like Annapurna's games. So we talked a long time ago, I think, about Maquette, which is a game that was on PlayStation Plus on the PS5 early on, and it's a really fun little puzzle game. And I really do like the things that Annapurna publishes. I think they might have also published Superliminal. That might not be right, but that's their kind of thing, though, is games like that are like kind of reality bending and little puzzly games. Cocoon, they showed all these little orbs and this little this little bug or something that was like carrying them around, and like the different color orbs seemed to do different things, and you could like go through the orbs and it would transport you to different places, and it just looked really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to this a lot. And it's coming to Game Pass, which is even better, so that I don't have to think about whether or not I want to buy it. So I'm really looking forward to that coming out in 2023.
And finally, the last 20 minutes of the Xbox game showcase was dedicated to Starfield, which is like the only reason they actually called this the Xbox and Bethesda games showcase.
Yeah, like I sort of forgot, sort of remembered that Microsoft also bought Bethesda. Like, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, so like this is another one of these like first party Microsoft things where it's Bethesda, which are the people that own Fallout, right? They're the people that made Fallout. And Starfield is their next giant project that they're working on. And they teased it last year with some really, I mean, good looking trailer, but it was very non-substantial. But this year we got a crazy amount of like detail. Like Todd Howard was standing up there and he was like, we're going to tell you everything about this game. And showed a bunch of gameplay from the beginning of the game. And it actually looks kind of good.
The trailer we got before didn't show us any gameplay. The trailer we got today showed us enough of a gameplay for me to realize that this is a Fallout game. It's a Fallout game. I don't like Fallout. This game looked incredible. Incredible. And I was not even excited about this game because I knew it was from Bethesda, and while I respect Bethesda as you know, producing a bunch of games that a lot of people like, I just never was into Fallout. I just never really liked it. And so I watched it going into it being like, okay, this will be cool, this will be fine. Like I'm excited to see what other people are excited about. And I came out of it very excited. Very, very excited. They showed some things in this trailer that I still have questions about. But I was watching kind of a panel watch this, and there were some moments where literally me sitting in my chair at home and the panel was like screaming with excitement. Maybe not screaming, but like hands up in the air, smiling, excited with excitement.
What were some of those moments for you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's like the general combat of Fallout, right? The loot, the shoot the guys, the health, the levels, whatever, the story, the voice acting, great. Then they showed that you can build your own base in like a top-down building sort of manner. And then they were like, oh, by the way, you can build your own ship too. And while I'm not like huge on building my own ship because I'm terrible at it because I've played Space Engineers, it was very exciting to see this feature and essentially them take a story game, right? Fallout, and an RPG, and make it also a base building and Space Engineers kind of customizing spaceship game. Because then they were like, oh, by the way, the base that built that allowed you to build your ship, you can fly your ship. And it just turns into a flight simulator. And I was just like mind blown, kind of like amazed. And then they were like, oh, by the way, and they just kept going, right? This is the moment where I'm just like, what is going on? They're like, oh, by the way, the base you built that allowed you to build your spaceship that allows you to fly wherever you want, you can go not only to like the POIs on the planets, but you can land anywhere on the planet. And we want to tell you, like, you know, we want to show you like how big the game is. So they're like, yeah, you can land anywhere on the planet. And there's like, you know, 6 planets in the solar system, and you can land anywhere on any of the 6 planets in the solar system. Oh, and by the way, there's 100 solar systems.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this and I was just like, I was started to get a little eyes glazed over like crazy scope and scale, where I was just concerned, I guess, for the actual ability of me to even play this game. Like this watching this, I was like, oh, the base building, I don't know if that's exciting. And then I saw the top down, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then they showed like walking through it, and you could like hire people to like work in the lab of the lab module of your space station or whatever, and I was like, ooh, this looks really neat. I'm okay, fine, this is kind of cool. Then they showed the spaceship building stuff, and I really don't care for custom ship building in games like this, so that really didn't do it for me. And then they're like, oh, you can fly your ship. And I was like, okay, fine, I don't really care. And then they started talking about all these planets, and I'm literally just saying the same things you just exactly said, but from the negative. This stuff did not really excite me. It actually overwhelmed me quite a bit, where it's like, oh my gosh, I was talking earlier about like small games. This game looks like it's going to be so huge that it's going to just be overwhelming from the exploration aspect to it. And I think if I'm going to play it at all, I'm going to just have to mainline it if I can figure out how to do that.
I agree with you, but also love the idea that you don't have to. And you can take as much or as little time as you want to explore. I think at some point it will get repetitive and you're just like, okay, how do they do 1,000 planets and not get repetitive? But I've always been super interested in Elite Dangerous since they've added planetary landing and all of that. And if this game just seems to allow for that as well. And I am incredibly excited by it. I am also incredibly worried by it, but not from a personal perspective. I think, yes, it will be huge, but I think you can. I think you will be able to mainline it. I think if you want to, you will be able to do that. What I worry about is with all of these, I'll call them ancillary features. Right? They are probably not super required for the main game. Like, you can probably build out your base to be incredibly and huge and super, super duper, but you probably don't have to. And when you start to have all these ancillary kind of systems in a very large game, and it's Bethesda, I start to get really worried about quality.
I think at the scale that they work, that it's inevitable that there's going to be some bugs. It just tends that Bethesda has some more high profile bugs that tend to be game breaking or game limiting that make a lot of headlines early on. And then they do, to their credit, get on it and fix them. Like, it just creates a bunch of internet buzz that's like, oh, the 10 years in the making million-hour game that Bethesda just released has this bug in hour 6 that you can't pass, and this is so terrible. It's like, okay, like, that's just a headline, a clickbait thing, and I think they get over it. I'm not so worried about it being like unplayable, at least for any reasonable amount of time. I think they have enough resources behind it that they will fix it soon enough. So that's not as big a deal to me.
Yeah, let me maybe alter that a little bit. Like, when I say quality, I don't necessarily... I know I wrote bugs in the show notes, but what I mean more is like building quality systems that are actually fun. I think they struggled a lot with Fallout 76 with bugs, right? That's what everyone kind of points to. But even past the bugs, I don't know, at least for me personally, that they ever built a game with Fallout 76, with the scale that it was, with the open world that it was, which this game is promising a lot of the same things, that ever delivered a system that was quality enough and fun enough to make me want to build a base, right? Like, that is such a cool feature. I am so excited by that, but like, please don't make it suck.
Yeah, I was very much like, and I guess I have been in this particular discussion of this, very pessimistic on this game. And then they showed like a story segment where they had like you talking to people, and like they showed like little cutscenes essentially. And I was really struck by the quality of like the facial animations and the interest of kind of the story that they were telling and the world that they had built and those kinds of things. And that's what started to draw me into this a little bit more. And now I'm kind of in I would really like to play Starfield when it comes to Game Pass next year.
Yeah. That makes it really easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would seriously be a very difficult buy at full price for me, like a day one kind of a thing, without it being on Game Pass, because I do think I would be like, it's $70. That's not really, 67, whatever it is. That's not worth it to me for this game that's going to be so big that I'm going to play it for 3 hours and then forget about it. But Game Pass is really enabling me to make a choice on that to play it probably day one or soon thereafter.
It lowers the barrier to entry.
Yes, significantly.
To basically nothing.
Yes, as mentioned previously, I'm paid on Game Pass until whatever 2024. So All these games, let's do it.
Did this you've played a Fallout game before, right?
Oh yeah, I loved Fallout 3. Fallout 3, I actually platinumed it on the PS3. I really, really enjoyed Fallout 3.
Can you, and you're going to hate me when I ask this question, can you play third person?
Oh gosh. I don't remember. Yes, I think so. In Fallout 3 you could, I think. I never did, but I think you could.
Did this trailer show them going from first person to third person?
There were clips for both, yes.
Does that mean you can play this game third person?
I don't know.
Do you know how much of a better game it would be if I could play it third person?
No, because I don't think it would actually change the game that much.
I
personally.
think it absolutely changes the game. Changes the entire game. It changes the whole thing.
Nope. I think it just changes the controls and makes them either better or worse, and I'm not sure which way it goes. It depends on the game.
I hope you can play third person. There was trailer footage that seems to indicate that you could play third person, and that is how I would play this game. Do you have anything else for the Xbox Showcase?
No, I don't think so.
I mean,
I think I'm good.
That was nuts. That was wow.
On the graphic that they have of the coming to Xbox and PC over the next 12 months, they had 50 games and 40 of them have the little Game Pass tag on them. I counted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that's how it felt. They barely showed games that weren't coming to Game Pass because Game Pass is their strategy. If you let's broaden it up here for a second. Going to the PlayStation Plus Extra and Game Pass and EA Play Pro and Ubisoft Plus or whatever they call theirs. I think like a couple years ago I said I would love subscriptions, and I love what's happening. But it must be working. It must be, because everyone's
it's gotta, like, they're all on board with it somehow, and there's kind of the problem of subscription overload, which happens with like streaming services too, where it's like, how many $10 a month subscriptions am I willing to put up with? But Game Pass, I mean, it's obviously the best deal in gaming as far as the quantity of things that you get, and I think it makes it a no-brainer. I think something like Ubisoft Plus is a little bit harder to sell because, or even now EA Play. I mean, EA Play put themselves into Game Pass to some degree. But even before that, I was struggling with EA Play. Like, how many dollars per month is it worth to me to play all the games? And I guess you could say, oh, well, if, as long as you're below 60 or $70, it's the same as buying one game every month. But it's like, yeah, but I don't play that many different games, so I don't need all these different subscription services every month. So I don't know. There's a lot of subscriptions.
Well, we've got data, Chris. We've got data, and I think you will find year after year, individually, I bet you will find you and I spending less on games.
Well, we'll see. We got the numbers.
But I also think that they will get more people spending money on games by the way that they're doing it. I mean, you look at the streaming industry, right? Like, I think more people are consuming. Well, no, okay, maybe that's not true because they had cable, but they're essentially doing that, right? They're making games accessible with a simple subscription. Like, you don't have to go and research games anymore. You don't have to buy them. You don't have to have an upfront cost. You just pay for the subscription. And I think that will get more people to pay for games that normally wouldn't. But people like us who spend, look at the data, $1,000 a year on games, we may not spend that much anymore. It may be $700 or $600 because they're just included with subscriptions we already pay for.
I mean, maybe the Dota Battle Pass is coming up soon, so no.
Okay, well, there'll still be something. But no, I think it's working. I think the other piece of this you wrote in the show notes is that games will cost $70 now. What is it? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is a $70 game.
Yeah, I think that's just the matter of the fact of the matter is that, like, games are more complex than ever. They really haven't changed price in like 10 or 15 years. I think the $60 to $70 conversation is fine. The one place that I will draw a little bit of, question into it is when you're talking about like remakes of older games. It depends on how much of a coat of paint they've put onto it. before I think that it's worth charging $70 for The Last of Us 1 remastered. Not to diminish the fact that there's a lot of work that goes into that, but it doesn't, as a consumer, feel as good to say like, yeah, here's this game that came out 10 years ago that you can rebuy for more money than you paid for it before. I know that Nintendo's been doing this forever, but I don't know.
I think feeling like remakes should cost less is fair. I think it makes sense to not want to pay as much. I think in general, games are not having as hard of a price anymore. I think the digital kind of economy of games has changed it so that we don't expect to go to our local Target and buy a $60 disc every time we want to buy a game. The 20, the 30, the 15, the 40, even the 45 up to 60 and now 70 and $100 game. They're all normal now. Everything is normal. And I think that Call of Duty deciding to charge $70 is no big deal.
Yep, I think that's fine. I'm not bothered by it. Even though, yes, Modern Warfare 2 is going to be a remaster of a previous game. There's certain kinds of things where it's like annual releases like that, where it's just that's kind of the market they've established, and that's what they're going to do. And I think I'm not bothered by that. I think it's fine.
The other note that I wrote down at the end of this is, this. We talked about so many games, and a lot of them are coming in 2022, a lot of them in 2023. I'm frankly amazed by how many games the market can support. I mean, we're just the two of us. We're talking like we're overwhelmed. We cannot possibly play more games. We barely get to the ones we want to play, let alone the ones that are, fringe or that we haven't heard of or whatever. We talked about, 30 games today. We'll probably pay 15 of them, and we're avid gamers. I'm so surprised with how many games there are and really how big this industry and how big the gamer market must be, because we're not even talking about mobile games, right? That's a whole nother part of this industry that we're not even talking about. And that's half the industry.
Yeah, that's insane.
I mean, the number of people that maybe don't consider themselves gamers, but that play games must be growing, must be exploding. And that is both encouraging and almost scary to think about.
It's just coming to be that games are now more like other forms of media, like TV and movies and stuff, where there's so many of them that come out that you do have to like know what you like and play the games that you like. It used to be that like there were, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 AAA games that came out every year that were like the big ones. And if you were a gamer, you had probably played all of the AAA games from a given year. And at this point, there's so many of them that you just can't keep up. If you're like not a games journalist, like if you're a regular person, you just cannot keep up. And that's probably been true for several years now.
Yeah, unless you get paid to play games, right? Streamers, I can understand, and journalists, but if you're not doing it during the 8 hours a day that you're supposed to be working, then you can't keep up. It's not possible.
That being said, the future is definitely bright for games, and there's a lot of fun things coming out, as we've just talked about for the past like 2 hours. So we'll be sure to play some of these, and I'm sure we'll talk about them on the show in the future.
We skimmed a lot during these presentations, and there are more to come that we're not covering, and there were some that passed that we did not cover. Let us know what you think. Let us know what we missed. I'm interested in which games you wish listed and which ones that you want to see, and whether you are optimistic or pessimistic about Starfield. You can get in touch with us. You can talk with us. We can actually get a conversation going on these games, and we have in a lot of Discords that we are in. So if you'd like to kind of get the conversation going in our Discord, you can get there and join by going to discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to see our show notes or catch up on our older episodes, I would highly recommend checking out our show notes to get the link to that Sea of Thieves trailer, because it was excellent. You can visit our website, which is pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
We really do hope you enjoy the show. We put a lot of time. This has been a long episode. For those that have been listening for a very long time, you remember that our episodes used to be 2 hours long. And this has been a lot of fun for Chris and I, but we really do hope that you enjoy it. And we would love if you could share it with some others that you think would enjoy the show as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time. Oh, one thing we didn't mention, actually, just really quick, is Arc 2. Speaking of survival crafting games.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like, are we gonna play Arc 2?
I don't know. We played Arc 1 for some reason, so like I figured it was probably a given. It looks really good. Like the engine they're using looks like modern and cool looking. So it looks, the art style has
not
improved.
Terrible and janky like the last one.
Exactly. So I mean, Arc 2, I don't know. Maybe it's coming to Game Pass, so it's built in right there.
And then how can I say no, Chris?